area will probably be set somewhere along here. Okay? That is, for example, a 0.8 mile course. So you can sort of see the scale of where you'll be sailing.
Mm-hmm.
Can you see that line quite clearly?
Yeah, perfect.
Okay, so that's a pretty typical effect. So what's going to happen is those shores are close enough that you can play them. Almost any point of sail, if you start over here, here's a 0.8 mile. So there's usually enough that you can, even here, there's enough of a compression over here that it may be worth going for. You see what I mean? On a 0.8?
Yeah.
So I'll give you just if you want to just jot these down, a couple observations. For example, a east wind, all right? The east wind, usually what you want to do is you want to work the Stelco pier, here. That pier can give you in the order of a 30 degree. And generally they'll try to keep that course maybe in this area. But you'll notice there'll be a distinct advantage likely to working underneath that pier in an east. Because you'll be able to lift most of the way in, and then out of it you'll end up with a velocity, extra wind velocity, which will generally keep you a little higher because you've got more breeze. That would be for the middle of the bay course. If you're working, and I heard some threats, they're going to put you up LaSalle Park along the North Shore.
This is, sorry, the 2.4s, Kevin, or?
Pardon?
That's the 2.4s, sorry, would be up there?
Yeah, that's what I heard where they want to put them, and that might be actually a pretty tricky area because as local Hamilton sailors, I'm not originally from here. I came here about maybe 15 years ago. The locals will say the north side of the bay pays once a year. And if you end up sailing up in there pretty consistently, it's a fairly unpredictable area. So I'll leave it at that.
So we should bring our dice and throw the dice in the bottom of the boat.
You can throw the dice, but you know what? It's not that bad because what tends to happen is it's a positioning race.
Yeah.
So you'll find the better part, likely the top third of the fleet is going to be working, the start, the first shift, try to get the first shift as a knock, because you're going to have, on an east breeze, which you're likely to have, it's actually a pretty sweet, steady breeze, and it has a nice 10 degree back and forth to it.
Okay.
So it's not enough that everybody picks up on it, but it's enough that if you're keeping a sharp lookout, keeping your shore sights, keeping a look at it, you can see it, and you can, foot your way to the first knock, and then work the shifts up the middle, and then try to pick the last knock on your approach. Does that make sense, or am I going too fast?
Mm-hmm.
That's probably
That's okay.
probably good for Aaron and Peter, and for Jim and George, I don't know as much, but we can also talk about this and break it down a bit more simply when we're out there, when we're training.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The one thing that I've always found sailing here too is you have to play a pretty close game on the left, and if you do end up working right, for example the shore effects, you got to work the shore effect all the way. And you'll find that if it starts paying, the top guys are going to be working that shore. They're going to be working it to ley lines, which is very nervous. But it's just shore effects. It's one of those games you're either in or you're out. If you've got some left available to you, for whatever reason, Hamilton Harbour always will give you the last 100 meters a good 15 degree shift. I think it's spite. But usually a port tack approach is a bit deadly in a bigger fleet. But the port approach for the last 50 to 100 meters into the mark rounding you're almost given to gain 2 or 3 places. So it will give you a bit of a clench factor, but the mechanism of the shifts, because what happens is the marks always end up towards the end of the course. You know, if you're out here, 0.8 miles, you always end up into an area where stuff is happening, and you're on the edge of different winds. So, you know, you can see here, like, the mark will end up, there's your 1 mile, and you're awfully close to shore, so a shore effect is going to happen. If you've got a west wind and they're starting you, for example, down here, and sending you up here, once again, you're under a shore effect for that last bit of the race.
Okay. Jess, I just want to jump in for 1 second. So for George, we haven't sailed together before. I don't know if this is all crystal clear, but Jim, I know being newer, I told Jim what is now turned into a lie. I said that the wind always comes from the top of the whiteboard when we talk about sailboat racing. But now that we're looking at it geographically, so does that make sense, Jim, that he's saying, like, if you're getting this east wind coming out, you know, then we'd be looking at having a windward, or actually, I guess he said, for you guys, it would probably end up being like here, your windward, and your start line would be like this, right? So you'd be tacking up like that before coming down. Right. So like he's saying, you're ending up very close to this shore and all the effects that are going to be happening from that wind, or vice versa. If we're sailing with a west wind and the wind is coming this way or that way or wherever it's ended up coming, then, you know, this would be your start line and this would be your windward, and you'd be tacking this way and then coming around.
Yes.
Is that clear? Okay.
Yeah.
So I lied. The wind doesn't always come from the top of the whiteboard. Sorry, Kevin.
I can't spin it on this one, but
It's okay. I'm projecting you on a whiteboard so that I can scribble stuff on top of it while you're talking.
oh, perfect.
Yeah, so it's good.
All right.